welcome everyone to our first weekly show, Let's Talk Immigration. We have our guest Sandeep Singh, who is the Marketing Director for Brampton Immigration Consultancy. Today we're talking about study permits. So a study permit is basically a document the Government of Canada issues that allows foreign nationals to study at designated learning institutions, or what's often called DLIs. Most foreign nationals need a study permit to study in Canada. So we're going to talk about a few things. For example, what are the requirements for a study permit? What is an SDS? And some common questions that you have often asked us on our social media. So my first question to you, sir, is what are the requirements for a study permit in Canada, and are there particular documents that you need for your study permit?
So thank you, Anushka. Thank you so much for having me in this show today. It's a pleasure to be here, and study permits are like study department actually, and in immigration is really close to my heart. I love to work with students, so it will be, I assume that it's going to be an amazing show. We'll talk about a lot of stuff today. So study permits, what documents are needed? So we need to understand one thing. To study in Canada, most of the country residents need to get a study permit. So to get a study permit, there's an officer who's assessing your file, and he needs to see whether a person who is applying for study permit is actually a genuine student or not. So you need to prove whether your application is genuine. The second thing is that you need to prove that you can afford Canadian education. So as you know, someone who is a domestic student in Canada, the fees for that individual is very less as comparative to someone who is an international student. Although the quality of education, quality of life that Canada provides to people coming from other part of the world is amazing. I'm just going to give you one example. We know that we all went through a huge pandemic year from last 1 year, year and a half. So Canada values everyone. So Canadian government or Canadian people are not biased when we talk about human values. And the biggest example will be that if the Canadian government was helping Canadian residents by giving them some amount of money on a weekly or a monthly basis, they were doing the same for the international students as well. So that's the quality of education, or that's the quality of life Canada provides to each individual. The best thing about Canadian study permit is that if you qualify under SDS, so we'll discuss about SDS and non-SDS later on, but if you qualify under SDS, and if an individual is studying for a 2-year course, you're getting 3 years work permit, and that work experience actually helps you to lead towards permanent residency and slowly towards Canadian citizenship. That's amazing. So your journey starting from study permit can lead you towards a Canadian citizenship.
Okay, and how much do you think that a study permit costs? Like what kind of fees do people need to have in mind, and what sort of like budget I feel like the students should know about before like they apply for a study permit?
Perfect. So this is perfect question, and everyone needs to know that, because someone who is planning to come to Canada on a study permit needs to have a particular budget. But the problem is there can't be a numbers that I can disclose, but what we can disclose is, let's divide study permits into two parts. One is SDS and another is non-SDS. So what is an SDS? So SDS is Student Direct Stream. In this, the Canadian government has chosen a few countries, so India, Pakistan, and few other countries. If a resident from those countries apply towards Canadian study permit, and if they fulfill few requirements, what are the major requirements in SDS? You need to have 6 bands in IELTS. You need to pay approximately $10,000 towards GIC, and you need to pay 1 year of college fees. So these are the major requirements for SDS. When we talk about non-SDS, there is no particular requirement that you need to have GIC and stuff, but To get a study permit, you need to show a lot of documentation. Your financial documents, CA reports, property documents, parents' documents, why would you come back to your home country, how would you afford Canadian education, you are a genuine student, you will complete your education, and a lot of stuff needs to be done in a non-SDS. The success rate of non-SDS is less as comparative to a SDS. So if we are talking about SDS, the numbers will be 1 year of college fees plus $10,000 plus embassy fees. So this is the expense that an individual is going to bear. When we talk about a non-SDS, there are no official numbers, but I would say that we will have to prove that someone can afford 2 years of education. So I would say you should pay 1 year of college fees along with GIC, and should have enough amount in your account that can show that a student can afford second year of education as well.
Okay, and before I go again back to SDS, can you please tell us, like, how does it make a difference if I do a PTE exam instead of an IELTS exam, and is that accepted by the Canadian institutions and the Canadian Embassy?
Perfect, nice question. So let's talk about PTE, Duolingo, or many other TOEFL, or many other English proficiency tests. So for SDS, we need IELTS. There is no question on that. But under non-SDS, yes, you can apply even without IELTS or any proficiency test. So, but what are the chances to get visas? Of course, the visa chances will reduce if we don't have, if we can't prove that we can speak, or read, write, and listen, or understand, or communicate in English. So all these factors do count towards your study permit application. So under non-SDS, there is no, I would say, on papers at least, there is no requirement that you need to have any English proficiency test. But I would strongly recommend that you must have some English proficiency test. That might be TOEFL or IELTS or PTE or any other.
Now that we know that what is an SDS and a non-SDS, and what are the requirements for a Canadian study permit, we would like to ask our guest, why do we need a registered agent to apply for a Canadian study permit?
So that's like $1 million question. And the point is that immigration is a legal department in Canada. So we have a separate ministry for immigration. And not only that, there's a lot of fraud happening all around the globe. So Canadian government have a registered licensed immigration consultants. They need to study, pass their exams, and then they get the license. So these regulated consultants are authorized by the Canadian government to represent individuals. So this is the major difference between a ghost consultant. So ghost consultant is someone who is not authorized by the Canadian government to represent anyone, whereas a regulated immigration consultant is someone who is authorized by the Canadian government to represent an individual. So when a licensed immigration consultant is representing an individual, he has done a full education on this, he has passed his exams, he got licensed by the Canadian government, so he knows his job, he knows what he's doing. On the other hand, people are experimenting on someone on applications that they are not even aware of. So I'm going to give you one example. So recently we were in India. We had seminars for 15-20 days. A huge amount of crowd came to those seminars. There is a city in Punjab, Moga. So the numbers that I'm gonna tell you are huge. So at least 50% of people that met me in Moga were banned for 5 years due to misrepresentation. I have my license on stake. I won't do this because I would lose my license. On the other hand, a ghost consultant has nothing to lose. So it's easier for them to manipulate documents or play around with the documents and play around with the future of individuals. So what these ghost consultants are doing, they give fraud documents to Canadian immigration departments, and when they are caught, the individual gets into situations of getting banned for 5 years. Reason being, when a licensed immigration consultant file a case, it's done through his portal. But when a ghost consultant file a case, no one knows that a ghost consultant is doing this, because it seems that individual is filing his own case.
Thank you so much, which basically leads to my next question. A lot of our clients and like potential clients have sent us messages on social media asking if they've been refused a lot of times, what are their chances of getting a Canadian study permit? So if you could talk about that.
We had people who were refused 5 times, 6 times through some ghost consultants. They came to us and those negative results were converted into positive results. And why so? This why means a lot. So when your case gets refused, an individual or a ghost consultant who has not gone through the study or the experience that a licensed immigration consultant has gone won't understand what I'm going to say right now. So federal court decisions become the base when a case gets refused. So that means you need to do a research, you need to bring particular cases up in your submission letters, saying that the decision by the officer is wrong because of this, this and this. And the basis of those reasoning needs to be the federal court decisions, not because Sandeep is saying so. So when you bring those cases up, when you give references of the federal court decisions, those negative chances to convert those negative decisions into positive decisions are huge. And that's the major reason that in the market it's said that we are king of converting refusals into positive results. We have done it n number of times. Not only that, we had cases. I'm going to give you another example. A nurse, I forgot the name. Recently, she came to Canada on a study permit with around 10 years gap. So people usually say that if there's a gap, you're not going to get visa. I have n number of examples where I can prove that we converted results where there was 10 years of gap. There was another individual from Nigeria, I suppose. She came to Canada on a visitor permit. We converted her visitor to study permit. 45 years old lady with around 15 to 20 years of education gap, and she got her study permit. So the thing is, this is the reason that you should choose experienced licensed immigration consultant, so that he or she can actually work on your profile in a way that you get positive results. No one can guarantee results. Temporary permits are never guaranteed. Study permit is one type of a temporary permit, but at least the filing can be done properly.
And do you think that it's practical to be able to convert a visitor visa to a study permit?
So I just gave you an example of Jane Nwapa. She's from Nigeria, 45 years old lady. This is a recent case that we did, and a gap of around 15-20 years. She has, so after her case, so so mother got her study permit, 45 years of age, then 2 of her kids, they got a study permit after the mother got her study permit. Now, technically, we need to prove that someone who is coming to Canada will finish the study and go back, right? That's the major part of the study permit application. In this case, it was difficult to prove that because mother is already on a study permit and 2 of the kids are also coming on a study permit, but we were able to convince the officer, and all 3, so mother and 2 kids, are studying in Canada these days.
Wow. And like one of the questions that we get repeatedly from students who want to come here is that, is it better to do a 1-year course or a 2-year course when it comes to studying in Canada and getting a work permit after? And how does that affect their PR applications?
Perfect. We need to understand, if your target is to get permanent residency, someone who has already done a bachelor degree or a master degree and can score a good IELTS score, 1 year of course can be good enough for him. On the other hand, I would like to specify one thing. So 2 years of education doesn't mean that 2-year complete education. 1 plus 1, so that means if you do 2 courses which are 1 year in length, each course is 1 year in length, you still qualify for 3 years work permit. So that's really important, because I have met people during seminars and they are so confused. I mean, they feel that I will have to choose 2 years of education right now so that I can get 3 years of work permit. That's not true. You can always choose 1 year course, 2 1-year courses that makes your education for 2 years, and that you can get 3 years of work permit on that. I think did I make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so my final question to our guest today is that how long has it been taking on average for a study permit to be, you know, I guess like accepted or
to get the decision.
To get decision from the embassy?
So unfortunately, yes, it's taking long because of the pandemic. Nowadays it's taking around 14 weeks. For some countries, it depends from country to country, but yes, the time has increased. Whatever the normal time period was before this pandemic has increased. I'm giving example of India. Usually it used to take around 15 to 20 days. Now it's taking around 14 weeks. So yes, it's taking much longer. This is right time to apply for May or September. So feel free to reach out.
All right. So those are all the questions that we have today. A reminder again, we will be posting these videos every week. So send us what topics you would like us to cover, what kind of questions you would like us to answer. And finally, a reminder, if you're applying with Brampton Immigration Consultancy in December, your application fee will be waived off. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, Sandeep, and it was amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much, Anushka, for having me.